So a little while ago, I got the opportunity to go to the Netherlands. I went to support my mate Jono at the Gravel Cycling World Championships, where he narrowly missed out on the win on being a world champion. So I didn't go there to train or to ride hard or whatever. I went to enjoy the experience, and so as part of that, I was just cycling around for transportation. Once we arrived and parked up, we sort of left the car, and honestly, the cycling infrastructure completely blew my mind. Not because it's extreme, but just because cycling there felt absolutely normal and part of everybody's day-to-day life, and it just felt the polar opposite to where I live in the UK. What struck me straight away is that for a lot of people it seemed that cycling isn't exercise, it's not a statement, it's not about I'm a cyclist, it was just appeared to be how people got around. All ages of people, all clothing, all bike types, you know, the step-through e-bikes, old bikes, cargo bikes with kids and shopping on, and that one change, cycling as transport, completely changes how it feels. This moment here for me really summed it up. So I'm cycling towards a roundabout, but instead of me mixing with traffic, the cycle lane runs around the outside of it, and this is the important bit. These white triangles on the floor are called shark teeth, and what they mean in the Netherlands is they mean give way, and crucially they're facing the cars, not the bikes. So that means that drivers are legally required to yield to cyclists continuing around the roundabout. So you'll see here this car stops to let me cross the roundabout. I think it's a bit incredible. I say thank you, but it's just part and parcel of day-to-day life there. So when they stop and let me roll through, they're not being polite, they're just following the rules that they're used to driving to every single day. And because everybody understands that expectation, there didn't seem to be any feeling of rushing, no like negotiation, can I go, can't I? No stress of, oh, I've got to get out there quick. So I'm saying thank you because it feels so alien compared to the UK, but actually it's completely normal here. The difference is that in the UK, roundabouts tend to be designed around motor traffic first. Here, drivers enter the roundabouts cautiously because they expect cyclists to be there, and that predictability is what makes it feel calm. Now, over the few days that I was there, I did notice that there were just cyclists everywhere, sometimes riding 2 or 3 abreast or had to overtake, some going really slow, some going really fast. But it never felt like aggressive or chaotic, it just felt accepted. And whilst I was only there for a few days and covered, I don't know, 150 miles or so in total, I didn't have a single close pass by a vehicle, and it just absolutely like shocked me. Traffic volume in general was really low. Where there was traffic, speeds were low, and drivers were generally really considerate. Now, not because they're magically nicer people, I did meet some lovely people there, but it's just because the system expects cyclists to be there. Now, I do want to pause on this crossing section because it's a really good example of how the system actually works. Now, at first glance, it looks like the driver should stop, and I definitely half thought that. The road is red, it's clearly a cycle route, and there are some like bold markings. But if you look closely at the floor, the shark teeth are on my side of the crossing. So in Dutch road law, shark teeth always mean you must give way in the direction that they face. So in this case, as I'm approaching this crossing, I was required to yield, not the car, so I couldn't just steam across the road. I had to stop, the car progresses, and then I go. So although you might look at the markings that the driver's approaching and think, oh, it looks a bit like a zebra crossing, the stripe lengths are different. And in the Netherlands, the pedestrian zebra crossings have like uniform white stripes and give pedestrians absolute priority. These markings there aren't that. They're used to visually highlight the crossing point, but they don't override priority. So even though the crossing is made to look prominent, the priority is still defined by the shark teeth, not the colour, not the stripe style or anything like that, shark teeth. Now, even though I technically had to give way here and did, notice what didn't happen. The driver wasn't rushing through, no like aggressive acceleration to get through before you try and pass, no horn or anything. That's because sight lines are clear, you can see for, you know, miles, speeds are really low, both cyclists and the cars, and everyone expects crossings to exist. Safety here seems to come from design and not expectation, not like last second reactions, it's all planned out. Now, a lot of this was new to me and my friend Jono, and one question we asked is, do we have to use cycle lanes? What's the legality around that? And the answer is sometimes yes, but often no. Now, if a cycle path is marked with a blue mandatory sign, obviously it's mandatory and cyclists are expected to use it. If you don't use it and you're a cyclist, you can be issued an on-the-spot fine. So, you know, that's very clear. If it's an advisory one, so without a blue sign, it is just advisory. And in many cases, cyclists are legally allowed to ride on the carriageway even if a cycle path exists, which is kind of similar to the UK. So just another example of how cyclists aren't treated as a second-class road user. Now, I thought this section of road was really interesting. It's a narrow two-way road with painted cycle lanes on either side, but the space in the middle is only big enough for one car. It looks a bit odd if you're not used to using it, and I was like, oh, what's happening? So let's explain what's going on. So it's a two-way road, but it's only wide enough for one car to get through at a time on the middle highlighted road section. And you'll notice that there are painted cycle lanes on both sides, but no physical separation, no curb or barriers or anything. These are advisory cycle lanes, so they're not protected lanes. That means they're there to show that this is a cycling space and that drivers should expect cyclists, but cars are allowed to enter them when space is tight. So I had a car overtake me and then it moved into the cycle lane in front of me. So when that car does that, it's acting in exactly that way. It's overtaking me because there's space, and then when there isn't space because there's a car oncoming, it's going partly into the cycle lane. That's not aggression. They're slowing down, positioning themselves and making room so that oncoming traffic can pass. As we can see, the car coming the opposite way does the same thing. It's straddling the cycle lane and the sort of middle lane part and part. But I think the really important key bit for this is that everybody's moving slowly and predictably. Nobody's trying to force their way through. Nobody expects to drive fast here. The paint isn't a hard boundary. It's more of a mental signal. It's saying, look, cyclists belong here, cars are guests, and when space is shared, it's when it's needed. And because traffic volumes are low and speeds are low, this never felt stressful. It felt like it was just happening, just part and parcel of day-to-day life. And again, whilst I was there, even in scenarios like this, there was never a close pass. Vehicles would just wait if there wasn't the space. I think this design would feel awful in like a high-speed environment, but because here the whole system supports it and it's built around that, it seems to work. What about helmets though? And I'm not talking about gravel protege Jono. Well, helmets aren't legally required for everyday cycling here, and that does often shock people in such a cycling-friendly, country. But the safety model that the Netherlands employ isn't a protect people when things go wrong strategy. It's reduce the risk of high-speed conflict in the first place. When the collision risk is low, people relax, they ride upright, they make eye contact, they are just going about their day-to-day life. And statistically, this shows that the cycling here is very, very safe. It's the law and the whole design around it is what's impressed me most. So it's not that the infrastructure that is there is paint on the ground. It's not just the rules are just like legal theory that's in a highway code somewhere. It's that they're visible, they're present, and they reinforce each other. So clear markings that define priority, design that keeps speeds low, and everybody knows what's expected of them. And that's why it feels so calm, even when it is quite busy. Everybody knows what's expected of them in different scenarios, and therefore there's no confrontation. Now, the Netherlands wasn't always like this. It didn't happen overnight. From what I read, from the 1970s onwards, the Netherlands made long-term commitments to design cities around people, not around cyclists, around people and not just cars. And they stuck with it for decades. So this isn't a cycling culture they're trying to build, it's a transport policy. It's an efficient and sustainable transport policy, and it clearly works. So this trip didn't make me want to train harder and be like Tom Pidcock. It made me think, like, what if cycling was like this at home? Like, how amazing would that be for travel? Not stressful and feeling like you're risking your life every time you ride a bike, just easy, accepted. And this is on my mind all the time now as I make efforts to improve cycling safety in my local area in the UK. Let me know if you've ridden in the Netherlands, and I'll see you again very soon.